people didn't have the right access. That is, the people growing up, they didn't fit it in this thing. When we talk of committees, we made a lot of products which would represent that. Committees is probably the strongest bond we had in this region, Indo-Pak. Even you will be amazed the amount of gold people have in their reserves today. Families having nothing still have jewelry with them when it was, I think, about 10 rupees a tola. So that is what they carry with them. How to bring it into the formal sector, that is the challenge. If you don't bring it to the formal sector, then what Dr. Imran said, what the equality of distribution of wealth, everything that can't. So the microfinance now, what it does, it formalizes the cycle of financial movement or financial education, 1. 2, when the credit cost is high, you'll be amazed, we are giving 5,000 certificate in the small markets for 14.5%. And that's the money which is being, let's say, plowed back into the market for credit. If you're giving your client, a saver, 14.5% on per annum basis, what do you expect the administrative cost of one small transaction of 25,000 rupees? I come from a commercial bank. To distribute one loan of 1 million rupees in commercial bank is one file, one man, one complaint. In microfinance, it is 1,070,000 people. So that's a whole cycle involved with it to bring it into the formal sector thing.
Okay, I've been told we're completely out of time, so I'm going to allow you to ask your question, and then if you could give a joint response. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a very interesting session. I just want to say that microfinance is, because I've been also working in this sector, so in Bangladesh, it's not like only panacea, but it's one of the effective tool for poverty alleviation, and it can be used as a backbone. And definitely financial access is one part, but it has the health and education is a must. So with microfinance, you can combine these together for a healthy society, and one objective is employment generation, because in our society, we have a huge young peoples around, and for them, self-employment and the emerging micro-enterprise is not only microfinance is not one product. I think in Pakistan also you have different products. For ultra-poor, you have with the safety nets program, and for those who have scaled up, for them emerging micro-enterprises which can be linked with small enterprises. So there are so many opportunities there, but with social reforms and with the public sector, I think that should be a coordination. Because in the health services, the poor people, though there are the services around, the government is providing, but it's not reaching to the ultimate poor in the true sense. They don't have that capability or to reach to, the system loss is there. So these microfinance can help there to coordinate the linkage, and also at the higher stage the market linkages and the other business development services, and that will pro-poor growth, it will help, and social inequity also, it can be reduced. But I have just a question from, especially for microfinance bank, what is the service charge and how do you monitor, and what is the regulatory authority? Just I want to know about each of you. Thank you.
Well, the regulatory authority is the state bank, right?
It's a common for all. The regulatory authority does not have any ceiling for the service charges we do. Sorry, the regulatory authorities have not fixed any ceiling for this. It is based on the actual ground realities, that the cost of fund you have, your administrative cost, and then the certain amount of profitability to keep the organization sustainable. What we have is, it varies between 25% to 32% based on the product, yeah. I would say this is on if on the flat rate, I'll say it between 16 to 20% on the flat basis. As far as the other products, it has health, it has insurance, all those things. So this is the cost which is involved to the customers. Last point on this, there is no limit. We are doing the business. So far, people do not challenge the rate part of it because they get their own saving at 14.5%, which is the highest in this country we are giving. And we are trying to reach out to the lowest villages in this. What really the value is the quick service and the confidence they are building in financial inclusion. Thank you.
One question was, what is microcredit and what's microfinance? So I did try to explain before, but I will repeat it. That microfinance is a much wider term. Right? My experience is that it's not just credit that people need. Bank that I headed, Kash Microfinance Bank, was a new bank opened in 2008. In 2.5 years, it had 100,000 savings clients and only 18,000 borrowing clients. So need for a savings account where there is no minimum balance and which is not restricting people of low income from having bank accounts. I think that's a very large need because people, when they have cash at the lower level, keeping that in the pocket is not a solution. So they also want access to reliable financial services. Savings actually is a much bigger need. So is insurance, health insurance, life insurance. So microfinance, if people understand that this is only lending, that's not true.
Okay, thank you. Asad Shah said we should be positive. There are 2 or 3 things I'd like to say at the end here. One is that there's something for everyone to do. Government needs to do its job. The private sector needs to do its. The banks need to do theirs. All of us need to do our bit. But I think what we also need to look at is an environment in which all this can work, and that's where government comes in. It can provide that environment, particularly law and order. So, if we start there, I think we can we can then build on a vision for Pakistan. I want to just tell you one little story before we go for lunch. A few years ago, I went to Chitral for a microfinance bank to do some evaluations for them. My daytime job is I'm a lawyer. And I met a woman who came from a place which was 2 hours from Mastooj. So it took her 5 hours to come to Chitral. Her story was really quite interesting. She was married at the age of 28 to a man she didn't want to marry, who was much older than her, who was a widower. She was a very plain-looking woman, so no one wanted to marry her. Her parents then married her off. She was abused in her marriage and eventually managed to get a divorce. And in Chitral, it was, she was viewed as a complete, like a leper, and lived in the family outhouse. She used to work as a domestic servant in people's houses to earn a little bit of money. And one of the people she worked with belonged to one of the rural support programs. And this woman took her to a center. She learned how to sew. And then the microfinance bank came to Chitral. She took a loan and she bought a sewing machine. Long story short is, in 2 years, she became the largest manufacturer of school uniforms in her district, employing 37 people in 2 years. She employed 37 people. She was now the major breadwinner in her entire family. She paid for her brother's children to go to private school. She redid her parents' house. She put in, as she told me, a European toilet. And she had taken care of her parents' health insurance, health needs, everything. So, motivation, a business plan, a market, all these things are required. And that's where, communities come together. And I completely agree with Dr. Amjad Saqib, is that we need to be human as well. We need to find that humanity within us. And maybe that way we'll put Pakistan on that track, with, which is beautiful and shining and a great vision. Thank you all for indulging me with my little story. Lunch, I believe, is served, and I'm going to hand it over to, sorry, it's not, I'm going to hand it over to Rabia. But thank you very much, and thank you to the panelists. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'd request my panel to just stay seated for perhaps 5 or 6 minutes. Lunch will be served, but I was actually having a small chat with a couple of kids outside. I call them kids even though I'm so young myself, as so many of you pointed out. But, and we talk about leadership, we talk about vision, and we also talk about the youth. And so the president of ICAP suggested that let's not just talk the talk, but walk the talk also. So we've got 2 kids who we will also refer to them, because they're kind of a little older than I am. They're part of the Chartered Accountants